I think most people know that I'm not the biggest fan of Reddit. It seems like the website Reddit is a magnet for cringe. Maybe the website had some sort of cultural relevance at one point, but now it's just Nerdsville. And the TMNT subreddit is no exception. I'm sure some of the TMNT Redditors are nice, normal people, but in general, they are a goofy bunch. However, I do lurk on the TMNT subreddit because it's one of the few public Ninja Turtles forums. Most of the TMNT posts on Reddit make me want to quit being a TMNT fan, so it was a great surprise to see a post I really liked way back in June of 2021. A Redditor posted a picture of his grandma holding 4 handmade Ninja Turtles figures with the caption, "My 91-year-old grandmother made these for me. Here she is with them the day she gave them to me." June of 2021 was before I created my Ninja Turtles channel. I was just another fan, but this post has stuck with me, and I even revisit it from time to time. Not just because of the nicely made TMNT figures, but because of the humanity behind the post. The figures looked like they were crocheted or made with yarn. I'm not sure what it's called, but they look good. Maybe these are considered dolls or plushes and not figures, but I like them. They're all pretty big and they're symmetrical. You can tell they're well made. Grandma did an excellent job. The Redditor has every right to be proud of these figures and his grandma, and the commenters on Reddit agreed. They said, "This is beyond awesome. You have an amazing grandmother, and cowabunga." One commenter said, "Your grandma is amazing." And the Redditor replied, "She is. She'll be 92 in a few months and still makes me cool stuff. The most amazing woman I've ever known." Another commenter asked, 2 questions. Is she looking for more grandchildren? Is there a pattern for these? And the Redditor responded, "I asked her this morning. She said she'd bought the pattern when I was 5, so about 30 years ago, and had it lying around until last winter when she made them. Next time I visit, I'll try to photograph it." I thought it was really interesting that the pattern sat around for 30 years before she made the TMNT figures. Imagine starting a project in your 60s and finishing it in your 90s. Pure dedication. Reddit usually has a bunch of dumb posts and frivolous nonsense, but every now and then someone posts something meaningful like this. I thought it was nice to see all the kind reactions. This is what life is about, little moments with loved ones. The response to the figures was 100% positive. This was a faith in humanity restored moment. It was really sweet. But life at best is bittersweet. In January of 2022, the Redditor shared another message. "Super Granny, gone, but will never be forgotten. The Redditor's grandma passed away." I was crushed when I read this. I don't know this guy or his grandma or anything, but my heart sank. It hit me hard for some reason. The Redditor posted, "Everyone in this community loved when I shared she made those turtles for me. I just thought I'd pass on word that she passed this afternoon." The Redditor also wrote an article. I'm not sure if he's a journalist or an author, but he wrote this for his grandmother. It's going to take a few minutes to get through, and I thought about shortening it for time, but what better way to honor her than to read the full thing and keep her memory alive? Here's the Redditor's article, a eulogy for his grandmother. "This is the hardest thing I've ever written. I'm sitting here, eyes streaked with tears, hands trembling, heartbreaking. As I write this, my grandmother lies in a hospital bed dying. Just a month ago, she was in perfect health, or as near perfect as you can be, shortly after her 92nd birthday. Then she came down sick, insisting at first it was a cold, finally admitting to herself it was likely coronavirus. 10 days ago, she was admitted to a hospital, and 2 days later, she was put on a ventilator. The night before that, I'd had the opportunity to speak with her on the phone. She sounded better than she had a few days earlier. When she came off the ventilator, we were all hopeful, but within a few hours when she regained the ability to speak, she told hospital staff that she didn't want to go back on it if things got worse. Within 12 hours, she was asking the hospital staff to let her die. That's what the virus did to her. It turned my very vibrant and otherwise healthy grandmother into a woman asking to die in only a few days. Last fall, she bought a motorhome and was planning to travel the country in it with my uncle and their dogs. For decades, she told us all she would live to 100, and as her 90s approached, she said she'd make it to 110. Anyone who met her couldn't believe she was in her 90s, many thinking she was decades younger. When my grandfather died almost 30 years ago, she went out and installed a basketball hoop to play in the driveway with my cousins and me. When I was in my teens and early 20s, she went to work at my uncle's tree service. Not in an office, but on site, helping drag tree limbs to the wood chipper. Just last year, she did my taxes and those of dozens more. She was on a bowling league into her early 80s using a 16-pound ball and carrying one of the league's top averages, despite many of the women on the league being between 40 and 60 years her junior. Other than my mother, Granny was the biggest influence in my life. I wouldn't be the man I have become without her. I have a December birthday just a few days after hers, so on my 4th birthday when there was a near blizzard, she was the only person who showed up to my party, despite it taking nearly 3 hours to make the normally 20-minute trip. After my parents divorced, we moved in with Granny and Papa. I was in 2nd grade. Mom worked a lot, so I spent a lot of time with them, and more so with just Granny when Papa died less than a year later. She took me back and forth to orchestra practice, to football games and wrestling meets, even to track events despite me not being good at that last one. If my mom couldn't be there, and even when she could, Granny was there. We held a special bond, one that should be envious of any relationship anyone has ever had. Our wrestling team was pretty good. She traveled all over with us and sat in the bleachers for 12 to 15-hour tournaments. In high school, she loaned me money to get a car after the $100 beater I had bought died. Then in college, when I didn't know how to care for a car, she loaned me money to fix it after I blew up the engine. She taught me to be financially responsible and was very proud when I asked for $50 savings bonds instead of cash when I was a child. Those bonds ended up helping me to buy books for my freshman year of college. She was there for my graduation, every time. When I graduated from high school, college again, and even college again. I didn't even want to go to the last two, but she insisted. She had earned those college degrees with me, though. When I struggled with math, she went and bought the textbook, taught it to herself, and then helped me. When that didn't work, she logged into the class and sat there with me while I did the work and told me every time I had a wrong answer so I could pass the class. For my high school graduation party, she not only hosted it, but made my favorite spaghetti dish, and a lot of it. She was upset when very little of it was eaten, until someone told her I had warned most people from eating it. She made it for wrestling tournaments, and I knew those days were over, so I instead wanted to freeze this large batch and have it for a few months. She was always willing to bake an extra pumpkin pie or invite us over to make Christmas cookies, though it was mostly us watching her make them, because while she'd give you her recipe, she'd never tell you what she did to spice it up. Ours were never like hers. Granny only wanted the best for me. Until my generation, no one in the family had gone to college. Yet when I told her I wanted to be a lawyer, there wasn't any question that she was going to support that. I was 7. At 9, when I said instead I wanted to change the world, she smiled and asked how. I don't remember how I answered, but I remember she supported it. She also supported my cousins on their path through life. One a doctor, one a beauty school graduate, and one who chose to be a stay-at-home mother to 3 children, who are so far the only great-grandchildren Granny has. When I got to high school and figured out I wanted to be a writer, she warned me that I wouldn't make the money I would have as a lawyer, but told me to be happy. Last summer, I handed her a copy of a book that I dreamed up, put together with a team, and served as a writer and editor on. She smiled bigger than I had ever seen. Despite me finding the book on a table at her house when I was there for Christmas, the spine unbroken, I know that she loved that I had done it. For the record, she would have hated the book since it's a look at how people survived the COVID-19 lockdowns. In 2019, a few days before I turned 34, she gave me a set of 4 hand-crocheted Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle dolls. She had bought the pattern in 1989 to make them for me, decided it was too hard, and put the pattern in a drawer. 30 years later, she found the pattern, knew I still loved the turtles, and made them for me. I have a photo of her holding them and smiling that I'll cherish forever. A few months later, she made me 2 different versions of a Baby Yoda doll from The Mandalorian. She's never seen TMNT or Star Wars, but she sought those out to make, knowing I would enjoy them. For the record, she made my 3 female cousins dollhouses when we were younger, so I wasn't the only one getting handmade gifts. Side note on the turtles, I used to carry one with me to post pictures of the action figure doing things as I traveled around. Once I left the toy at her house, and the next morning I awoke to several photos on my phone where she had posed him cooking and cleaning at her house. She also loved baseball. When she wanted to go to a game, I first took her to see the Toledo Mud Hens, and she was content with that. But then, 2 years later, I had an opportunity through my job as a reporter to cover Kids Opening Day at Comerica Park, and they extended us all the opportunity for press credentials for the day for us, and a family member since it was a weekend. Granny got to go down there with me. She loved the Tigers, but at first she didn't realize they were also on the field warming up. She started talking to me about the players. I saw something she didn't. JD Martinez was stretching about 3 feet behind her. I asked her who her favorite Tiger was, knowing he was the answer. He heard her say it and walked over and gave her a hug. I missed getting the picture or even telling him thanks, and he turned and ran back to the dugout, but I'll never forget her face. The virus, which took her before we were ready to say goodbye, was one thing, though there were a few that we didn't agree on. She refused to get vaccinated and only wore a mask when absolutely forced to do so. I was adamantly against those views and barely saw her during the pandemic. That's what this virus has done to families. Not just made us disagree, but split us up at times. At least I got to talk to her in the hospital just before she went on the ventilator. It wasn't a long call, but I got to hear her voice one last time before she was in the extreme pain of her last few hours. I got to tell her I loved her and hear her tell me that one last time too. I love you, Granny. Joanne was born December 7th, 1929. She died January 27th, 2022, exactly 27 years after her husband, Erwin, also died. There will never be another quite like her, and my world will forever be a slightly darker shade of gray without her in it. So that was the eulogy from the Redditor, and it was beautiful, very well written and touching. What a great life. And we found out the grandma's name is Joanne, and the Redditor's name is Dave. The guy who made the Reddit post has a name. It says the article was written by a guy named Dave. Here's a picture that he shared of him and his grandmother too. That's Dave on the right. I liked all the pictures he shared of his family. He did a great job painting a picture about his grandma's influence on his life and others around him. She had a positive influence and it seems like she led a full life. She was the real deal. These are great people. I would be happy if they were my neighbors. These are real people. This is what life is all about. It's a beautiful story. What else could you want? And you might be happy to know that Dave the Redditor's original post had legs. People have continued to comment on it for years. These handmade figures have aura. People love them. And they like the story behind the figures too. They like that a loving grandma spent her time on a kind gift for her grandson. In October of 2022, months after Joanne the grandma passed away, someone commented on the original post about the figures she made. The commenter said, "Damn, they're good." And Dave replied, "Thanks for bringing this back up. Brought a smile to my face. Granny caught COVID in January and passed. I miss her so much." Someone else commented in June of 2023. They said, "This is beautiful. Grandmas are the best." And Dave replied, "She was the absolute best. It's been 18 months since I lost her. Still think about her every day." I thought it was really cool that she bought the pattern back in the 80s or 90s and they just sat in some drawer while life unfolded around them. The Redditor grew up, his grandfather passed away, life happened. Then, decades later, she pulled them out of the drawer and made them. What a slow burn. Talk about delayed gratification. This was a story 30 years in the making. Pure love. And now I'm making a video about it years after the grandma passed away. This was a powerhouse grandma. She's still making people happy years after she's gone. What a legacy. I know I personally can't compare to someone like her, but when I go, I hope I made people happy like that too. I don't know if I'll do this channel forever. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I hope if you see the Ninja Turtles in 5 or 10 years, I hope you think of me and I hope you smile. I hope I made you smile. Most of life is just boring fluff and unpleasant nonsense, but every now and then you get a big hit of straight humanity and it feels good. And who would ever think you'd find anything useful or meaningful on Reddit? But this story is what life is all about. Life doesn't last forever, so make the most of it. And to Dave the Redditor, you'll probably never see this, but I'm so sorry for your loss. It's obvious you had a wonderful grandma and a great relationship, and my heart goes out to you. I know it's been years, but your family was in my thoughts when you posted this, and I revisit your post from time to time when I need a reminder of what life is all about. Thank you for sharing your story. But did this post make me change my mind on Reddit? No, not at all. This post was a diamond in the rough. I went down the rabbit hole and it was worth it. What a journey, what a story and legacy. These TMNT figures are just a small symbol of the love the grandma had for her grandson. The world would be a better place if there was more love and kindness like this. Who would have thought that some Reddit post would lead to all this? I guess I forgot that Redditors are human, too. I guess I just don't think of Redditors as human. But it turns out everyone has a story. Rest in peace, Grandma Joanne.